Summer is often associated with the peak beauty of a garden. But what happens in the second half of August? Many flowers have already finished blooming, flower beds lose their brightness, and the garden becomes less attractive. It is at this moment that it becomes clear that you need plants that can not only survive the heat and drought of the summer months, but also continue impressive blooming right up to the first frosts. If you've ever wondered why your neighbor's flower bed remains bright and colorful when yours starts to look sad, the answer is simple. They chose the right flowers. Those very flowers that love the sun, don't require constant watering, and, most importantly, can bloom for months without interruption. In this video, we'll talk about flowers that will turn your garden into a real paradise of colors from July to October. You'll learn which plants to choose for different conditions, how to plant them correctly, and what combinations will create the maximum visual effect in your garden. We'll cover both unpretentious annuals for lazy gardeners and more interesting options for those who want to create something truly unique. Ready? Let's begin. Queen of the summer garden, dahlias. If there's a synonym for the word brightness in gardening, it's definitely the dahlia. This plant has long won the hearts of gardeners around the world, and the reasons become clear as soon as you see the first blooming flower. Dahlias are perennial plants that are grown as annuals in most climate zones. They come from Mexico, where they grow in mountains, which means they're used to bright sun and alternating wet and dry periods. This heritage has affected their character. Dahlias love sun, aren't afraid of drought, and bloom literally non-stop from mid-July through October. The diversity of dahlias is simply breathtaking. There are tiny pompon dahlias the size of a walnut and giant ball-shaped varieties up to 30 centimeters in diameter. There are dahlias with simple flowers that look like daisies, and complex double varieties with petals arranged in many rows. Each flower is a true work of art. The color palette is equally impressive. Red, orange, yellow, pink, purple, white, black, coral, peach. Dahlias give you the ability to create a flower bed of any color scheme. There are varieties with contrasting petal edges, ombre effects, and even petals that look almost black. Growing dahlias starts with tubers. In early spring, you can buy tubers and plant them in pots at home, wait for shoots to appear, then transplant them into the garden. Or simply plant the tubers directly into the ground after the danger of frost has passed. The hole should be about twice the size of the tuber, and the soil should be enriched with compost beforehand. The distance between plants depends on the variety. Low-growing varieties up to 40 centimeters tall can be planted 30 centimeters apart, but tall giants that grow a meter or higher need space. There should be at least 60 to 80 centimeters between them. Dahlias respond well to pinching. If you carefully cut off the top when the plant reaches 30 to 40 centimeters in height, the plant will start branching. This results in many side shoots appearing instead of one or two central stems, each ending in a flower. As a result, one bush can give you 50 to 100 flowers for the season instead of 10 to 15. Watering is an important but not critical part of care. Young plants need regular watering for the first 2 weeks after planting. But once the plant is established and starts active growth, watering can be reduced. Dahlias prefer slightly dry soil. Water approximately once a week if there's no rain. On hot days and sandy soils, twice a week may be necessary. Tall varieties need support. Install a stake or small stick when planting and tie the stem as it grows. This protects the plant from breakage in windy weather and improves the appearance of the bush. Removing faded flowers is more than just an aesthetic issue. If you regularly cut off wilted flowers, the plant directs all its energy to forming new buds. Blooming becomes even more abundant. You can do this procedure once every 3 to 4 days. Fertilizer plays an important role in prolonging flowering. After the plant starts growing actively, feed it every 2 to 3 weeks. Use fertilizers with high potassium and phosphorus content. They promote flower formation. Nitrogen should be in smaller amounts, otherwise the plant will build up foliage at the expense of flowers. Pests and diseases rarely bother dahlias if they're in a well-lit place with good air circulation. Occasionally thrips or spider mites may appear, especially in very hot weather. A preventive spray every 2 weeks usually prevents problems. In the fall, when frosts come, the tubers are dug up, Excess soil is carefully removed, and they're stored in a cool, dark, well-ventilated place until spring. This allows you to use the same tubers year after year, saving money and getting familiar varieties. The kingdom of zinnias. Simplicity meets beauty. If dahlias are perfectionist artists, then zinnias are actors who take the stage every day, ready to entertain and delight the audience no matter what's happening behind the scenes. Zinnias come from the same Mexico as dahlias, but if these two plant countries were actors, zinnias would definitely choose the motto "simple is better." These flowers practically require nothing. Soil? Not critical. Watering? Let it be rarely. Fertilizers? Thanks, not needed. But sun, now that's really needed. Zinnias are so simple to grow that they're often used when working with children or beginning gardeners. But don't let simplicity fool you. The brightness and diversity of zinnia flowers can rival many more demanding plants. There are more than 20 species of zinnias, but the most common in gardens is elegant zinnia. This plant evolved in this form thanks to popular selection, and modern varieties are the result of decades of breeding. Plant height varies from 20 to 120 centimeters depending on the variety. There are compact low-growing varieties for borders, medium varieties for mixed borders, and tall varieties for cut flowers. The shape of flowers is also diverse. Simple zinnias with a single row of petals resemble daisies. Semi-double varieties have several rows of petals. Fully double zinnias look like miniature peonies or roses. There are varieties with textured petals that feel velvety and varieties with smooth petals. The color spectrum covers almost everything. Red, orange, yellow, pink, lilac, white, purple. Zinnias give you the full palette. There are varieties with bicolor flowers, contrasting centers, and smooth color transitions. Growing zinnias starts with seeds. They can be sown directly into the ground after it warms up, or you can grow seedlings at home 4 to 6 weeks before transplanting into the garden. Zinnia seeds are large and easy to plant. They sprout within a week to a week and a half. Seedlings grow quickly and reach transplanting age in about a month. When planting in the garden, zinnias don't require special preparation. The hole should be deep enough so that the seedling soil ball is at ground level. The distance between plants depends on the variety. Low-growing varieties are planted 15 to 20 centimeters apart, medium-height ones 25 to 30 centimeters, tall ones 40 to 50 centimeters apart. Watering zinnias is only needed for the first 2 weeks after planting to allow plants to establish roots. After that, zinnias are satisfied with rainfall. Water only during prolonged dry periods and mainly at the roots. Water on leaves and petals can lead to fungal diseases. Removing faded flowers isn't as critical for zinnias as for many other flowers. The plant will bloom without this procedure. However, if you want to achieve more abundant blooming and a neater look, pinching the top when the plant is 15 to 20 centimeters high will help it branch. Removing wilted flowers once a week will also extend the flowering period. Zinnias don't need fertilizers if your soil isn't completely depleted. If the soil is poor, add compost or general-purpose mineral fertilizer when planting, and that's enough for the whole season. Excess nitrogen will result in abundant foliage at the expense of flowers. Tall varieties may need to be staked if they grow in a windy place. But overall, zinnias are very upright and sturdy plants that rarely require support. Pests rarely attack zinnias, especially if the plant is in a well-lit, sunny place. Diseases also rarely bother these flowers. The main thing is to avoid excess moisture and ensure good air circulation around the plant. Zinnias bloom right up to the first frosts. This means that if you live in a region where frosts come in November, zinnias will decorate your garden all that time. This makes them an ideal choice for creating continuous blooming from midsummer through fall. If you want to preserve your favorite zinnia varieties for next year, allow several flowers at the end of the season to fully mature and dry on the plant. Collect seeds, dry them further indoors, and store in a cool, dry place. Zinnias produce very viable seeds, and next year you'll get the same beautiful plants. Salvia, almost endless color. If you walk through the garden and see long spikes of flowers that look like candles or little fireworks, standing right out of the green foliage, it's probably salvia. This plant has one of the longest flowering periods among annuals and perennials. Salvia, or sage, is a genus of plants with 1,000 species, but for the summer-autumn garden, scarlet salvia is the most interesting. This plant was developed by breeders through hybridization of several wild species, and the result is truly impressive. Salvia flowers are arranged on long inflorescences panicles. Each flower is a small tubular flower with a closed upper lip and an open lower one. The flowers are tightly pressed against each other, creating the effect of a long, dense spike. This creates a visual contrast with the rounder shapes of other flowers in the garden. Red salvia is a classic. Its color is so bright that it's visible from a distance. There are varieties with orange-red flowers, carmine red, and even almost black red. But the salvia's color range doesn't stop there. There are varieties with white, pink, lilac, and purple flowers. There are bicolor varieties with red flowers and white bracts. Growing salvia usually starts with seedlings. Salvia seeds are small, and they need light to germinate, so they're not buried in soil but simply scattered on the surface. Germination takes 1 to 2 weeks. Seedlings grow slower than zinnia or zinnia, so salvia should be sown earlier, about 8 to 10 weeks before planting in the garden. When planted in the garden, salvia requires a sunny place. Shade will immediately affect the number of flowers. The soil can be poor. Salvia isn't picky, but well-drained soil is preferable. If you have clay soil, add sand or compost. The distance between plants depends on the variety. Low-growing compact varieties are planted 20 to 25 centimeters apart. Tall varieties 30 to 40 centimeters apart. After planting, water well and mulch. Watering for the first 2 weeks is regular, but don't overdo it. Once the plant is established, it only needs watering during prolonged dry spells. Salvia prefers slightly dry soil. Frequent watering can lead to root rot. Fertilizer isn't critical for salvia, but if you want to maximize the number of flowers, feed the plant every 3 to 4 weeks with a fertilizer high in potassium and phosphorus. Nitrogen should be minimal. Removing faded inflorescences is the key to continuous salvia blooming. If you regularly cut off faded panicles, the plant quickly forms new ones. You can do this once a week or even more often. A side effect of this process is that the plant becomes bushier and more branching. Tall salvia varieties may require support, especially if they grow in a windy place. Install stakes when planting and carefully tie the plant when it reaches 30 to 40 centimeters high. Pests and diseases rarely bother salvia. Sometimes thrips attack plants, but this happens rarely. Fungal diseases can only appear with excessive moisture. Therefore, the rule of good air circulation around the plant remains in effect. Salvia blooms from July through October, and in mild climate zones even longer. A few light frosts won't stop it. It will continue to bloom. This makes it a reliable foundation for any summer-autumn garden. Tireless helpers, petunias and calabricoa. When talking about universal summer flowers, petunias almost always make the top of the list. This plant forgives mistakes, blooms relentlessly, and is available in an incredible variety of colors. Petunia comes from South America, where it grows as a perennial, but in most climate zones it's grown as an annual. Modern petunias are the result of many years of hybridization, and the results are stunning. There are different types of petunias. Large-flowered petunias have large flowers 5 to 10 centimeters in diameter. They're impressive, but when it rains they can suffer from water pooling on delicate petals. Small-flowered petunias are more compact and viable. They produce more flowers and better tolerate adverse conditions. Many-flowered petunias spread like a carpet, producing a huge number of small flowers. Petunias are extremely diverse in color. There are solid-colored petunias of all colors of the rainbow. There are petunias with contrasting edges, veins, graffiti patterns, and stripes. Some varieties have what's called a wavy petal edge, which creates a sense of airiness and elegance. Growing petunias starts with seeds that need to be sown early, approximately 10 to 12 weeks before the last frost. Petunia seeds are very small, almost like powder. They're scattered on the surface of moist soil, not buried. They need light to germinate. Under the right conditions, Seeds sprout within a week to a week and a half. Petunia seedlings require attention. They need good lighting, otherwise they'll stretch. Soil should be moist but not wet. Once the seedlings develop true leaves, they're carefully transplanted into individual pots. When planted in the garden, petunias require a sunny place. Partial shade reduces the number of flowers. The soil should be fertile, slightly moist, and well drained. When planting in the ground, add compost or humus to the hole. The distance between plants depends on the type of petunia. Large-flowered varieties are planted 25 to 30 centimeters apart. Small-flowered and many-flowered varieties can be planted closer together, 15 to 20 centimeters apart. Petunia watering is required regularly, especially in the first 2 weeks and during periods of intense heat. Soil shouldn't dry out completely. However, overwatering leads to root rot. It's best to water in the morning, directing water to the roots rather than the leaves. Fertilizing petunias is important for continuous blooming. Feed plants every 2 to 3 weeks with fertilizer designed for flowering plants. If you notice that blooming starts to fade in late July or early August, increase feeding. The plant may not have enough nutrients. Removing faded flowers isn't as critical for petunias as for some other plants, but it still improves appearance and stimulates new blooming. If the plant becomes leggy and unkempt by late summer, you can do a general pruning, cutting back shoots by a third. After 2 weeks, the plant will fill with flowers again. Pests rarely attack petunias, but slugs may appear in damp weather. Fungal diseases are possible with constant overwatering. Prevention consists of good soil drainage and avoiding watering foliage. Petunias bloom from June through October, and in milder climate zones even longer. This makes them one of the most reliable summer flowers. Calibrachoa is often confused with petunia, which is understandable, they're quite similar. Calibrachoa is a close relative of petunia, but with some differences. Calibrachoa flowers are smaller, usually 1 to 2 centimeters in diameter. The plant is more compact and branching, producing a huge number of flowers, creating the effect of a cloud of blooms. Calibrachoa is especially good for baskets and containers, but also grows well in open ground. Growing Calibrachoa is similar to petunia, but this flower is somewhat more demanding of moisture. Soil should always be slightly moist but not wet. Calibrachoa also requires regular feeding. With good care, this plant blooms so abundantly that its leaves are barely visible under the flowers. Conclusion. Your garden of colors. A summer garden that remains bright and beautiful from July through October is not a dream. It's the result of choosing the right plants and a little attention and care. The plants we talked about in this video, dahlias, zinnias, salvia, petunias, and cosmos, are all time-tested, reliable flowers that handle heat, drought, and continue to bloom for months. The main thing to remember is that there's no such thing as a perfect garden. Every garden is unique, with its own microclimate, soil, and conditions. Experiment. Try different plants, different combinations, different approaches to care. What works for your neighbor might not work for you, and vice versa. Start with a few plants that you like and that suit your conditions. Plant them, care for them, enjoy the results. As you gain experience, you'll become increasingly confident in experimenting with new combinations and new plants. Remember that gardening is a process, not a result. Every year you'll learn something new. Every year your garden will get better. And every year, when in the middle of July or August you look at a flower bed full of bright colors, you'll be proud of what you've created. Thank you for watching. Create beauty, experiment, and don't be afraid of mistakes. Your bright summer-autumn garden is already waiting for you.